Here is a rundown on I Was Inside the Cult. Lindy Li exposes DNC cover-up, billion-dollar scam in Obama's third term, featuring Lindy Li by Patrick David.
Lindy Li's story is one of a dramatic change in her life. She was once a prominent figure in the Democratic Party, serving as the Mid-Atlantic Regional Chair at the DNC. The final straw came when the chair of the party, Jamie Harrison, began attacking her publicly, showing her private communications and calling her a narcissist. Lindy Li's journey to becoming a conservative was a gradual one, shaped by personal experiences and a growing disillusionment with the Democratic Party. She had been asking questions about the party's finances, specifically about the $2.50 billion raised during the election, and why it was spent on things like Bianca and Oprah. The response she received was overwhelming hate and personal attacks. One of the most significant moments that led to her departure from the party was when she discovered that the chair of the party was engaging in a conspiracy to hide Joe Biden's cognitive decline. Instead of addressing her concerns, he chose to attack her personally, tweeting gifs at her and calling her a grifter. Lindy Li's experience with the Democratic Party has left her shaken, but also more determined than ever to speak out against the party's corruption and abuse of power. She has become a vocal critic of the party, and her story has resonated with many who are disillusioned with the party's leadership. She has been open about the personal attacks she has faced, including death threats and harassment, and has even shared receipts of the messages she has received. Her courage and determination have inspired many, and her story serves as a reminder of the importance of standing up for what is right, even in the face of adversity. Her story is a testament to the power of courage and conviction, and serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for change. She recounts how her involvement with the party followed with a passion for politics, but soon turned sour as she witnessed the party's shift towards woke ideology and its embrace of extreme left-wing values. Lindy Li, a commissioner of Pennsylvania, reveals that she was appointed by the governor and had always been a conservative at heart, despite being a member of the Democratic Party. Her experience with birth control pills had a profound impact on her life, making her realize that the ideology she had bought into was not what it seemed. She began to question the party's values and eventually stopped raising money for them. Lindy Li's disillusionment with the party was further exacerbated by the allegations against Doug Emhoff, which she believes were covered up by the mainstream media. She recalls a dinner where she and her guests were discussing how they felt out of place within the party. This was the same dinner where she had a conversation with Doug Emhoff, which she describes as awkward. Lindy Li's experience with Joe Biden was different, however. She describes him as kind and genuine despite his flaws. She recalls an instance where he asked about her husband, not realizing she was not married. This moment stuck with her, as it showed her that Biden's memory was not what it used to be. She also shares a story about Mark Kelly, senator from Arizona, who is allegedly having an affair with a woman while being married to Gabby Giffords. Throughout the conversation, Lindy Li's passion for politics and her desire to shape American thought are evident. However, her experience with the Democratic Party has left her feeling disillusioned and frustrated with the party's shift towards extremism. Her story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of blind loyalty and the importance of critical thinking in politics. According to her, Pete Buttigieg was the biggest turnoff. Rude, fake, and two-faced. She even has a funny story about how Kamala hugged her, despite knowing she had a broken rib. She reveals that they were given talking points on a daily basis, and whenever someone questioned Biden's mental fitness, they were told to attack the person. This was a deliberate strategy to undermine their credibility and assassinate their character. She mentions Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donilon, and Anita Dunn as the three people who had the most power, aside from Jill Biden. These individuals were essentially the president behind the scenes, and Biden was just the facade. Anita Dunn, in particular, is described as a loyalist to Obama and Biden. She's the one who came up with the Dark Brandon nickname, and she's known for holding grudges. The conversation also touches on the topic of James Clyburn, who is described as a powerful figure in the Democratic Party. He's the one who saved Biden's campaign in South Carolina, and he's widely loved in the state. They've made their money, and they can retire comfortably. But the question remains, what's next for them? Will they continue to exert their influence behind the scenes, or will they fade into obscurity? One thing is clear, though. Lindy Li's revelations offer a glimpse into the inner workings of the DNC, and they're not always pretty. The party's obsession with power and influence is a recurring theme, and it's clear that some individuals will stop at nothing to maintain their grip on power. According to Li, the entire Biden world operation is built on influence peddling, and it's no surprise that Joe Biden's family members are involved in shady business deals all over the world. The conversation also touched on the topic of Tony West's shady dealings, including his connection to Eric Holder, the former Attorney General. She starts by discussing the production costs of a speech given by a prominent figure, which was reportedly very high despite the speech being only 2 minutes long. The conversation then shifts to the topic of Jen O'Malley Dillon, an Obama world fixture who led Beto O'Rourke's campaign. She attributes this to the campaign's lack of momentum and the fact that they were trying to conserve Biden's energy. She describes the event as embarrassing and notes that the campaign had to move the artificial wall closer to Biden to make it seem like more people were there. She cites the example of Hunter Biden's laptop, which was buried by the mainstream media, and the fact that revered members of the intelligence community came out and said it was Russian disinformation. She notes that this practice is corrupt and that there is no accountability for how the money is used. She describes Clinton as cynical and jaded, and notes that she is very practiced and choreographed in her interactions with people. She recalls being in her early 20s when Hillary was running for president, and describes her as someone who has been hardened by pain. Lindy believes that this pain has contributed to Hillary's corruption, but she's quick to point out that she's not like that herself. Lindy's interactions with Hillary were limited, but she remembers people in the Democratic Party thinking that Hillary was used up and done as early as 2016. Lindy also shares her thoughts on the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, recalling how Democratic donors were saying it's done, and we might as well pack up and go home now after the event. She notes that while no one wanted Trump dead, there were some Democratic influencers who were straight up evil and wished harm upon him. Lindy also mentions that she knows Harry Sisson, a well-compensated influencer who works with the DNC and super PACs, and reveals that he doesn't actually believe in the things he says about Joe Biden. Lindy believes that many influencers, including Harry Sisson, are paid to say things they don't believe in order to defeat Trump. She shares her own experiences with the DNC, recalling how they asked her to tweet about Joe Biden's kindness and compassion, but she couldn't bring herself to say he was mentally sharp. Lindy also discusses the DNC's treatment of minorities, particularly Indian Americans like Vivek Ramaswamy, who she believes is a non-factor in their eyes. She criticizes the party's hypocrisy on diversity and inclusion, pointing out that Asian Americans like herself are often hurt by their policies. The conversation also touches on Lindy's personal experiences, including her SAT scores and her waitlisting by Harvard. She notes that if she were a Black American with the same scores, she would have been treated very differently. The discussion wraps up with Lindy's thoughts on the relationship between Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, who she believes hate each other. She also shares her opinion on Newsom's presidential ambitions and his attempts to rehabilitate his image. However, she had grown disillusioned with the party's inner workings and eventually left. Lindy also shared that she had been in contact with Ted Lieu, who had confidently predicted that Biden would win the presidency due to his stance on abortion. Lindy expressed her disappointment with Kamala Harris, who she felt had set back the cause of women in politics. She believed that Harris's poor performance had made it unlikely that the Democrats would nominate another woman for president in the near future. Lindy also discussed Gretchen Whitmer, who she claimed was angry about not being considered for the vice presidency, and was now planning her own presidential run. The conversation turned to the topic of Bill Clinton, with Lindy expressing her disgust at the DNC's decision to elevate him as a keynote speaker at the convention despite his history of sexual misconduct. She also criticized Hillary Clinton, calling her evil and suggesting that she was feared by those who knew her.
Lindy and Patrick also discussed the Epstein files, with Lindy stating that she found it shameful that the DNC had continued to associate with Bill Clinton despite his connections to Epstein. She praised Patrick for his interviews, which she believed had the power to shape international politics. As the conversation came to a close, Lindy thanked Patrick for treating her with respect and graciousness, and Patrick encouraged his audience to reach out to Lindy on Connect with any questions they may have. She invites everyone to reach out to her with any questions they might have, no matter how personal or sensitive the topic may be. Thank you for tuning in.
Please click follow button, and just remember, subscription is only £1 or $1 per month. Leave a comment or review. Until next time, happy listening.